Lori Sturgill is the communications manager at the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library and Museum. She leads digital engagement strategies there that amplify the museum and the library's mission and connect diverse audiences. She has 15 years of experience in marketing and public engagement and event leadership, and she's developed and implemented high impact campaigns across nonprofit, cultural, and government settings. Under Lori's leadership at the ALPLM, social media presence has experienced sustained growth in reach, engagement, and audience interaction. One of the key reasons we have her on this today. She launched the museum's first influencer marketing campaign, introduced a short form video strategy, and developed a comprehensive communications calendar that ensures consistent, mission-aligned storytelling across platforms. Her approach is grounded in strategy, storytelling, and audience insight with a focus on accessible and inclusive communications. She's passionate about using digital platforms to make history more visible, engaging, and relevant for today's audiences. And we know with Lincoln being the big key there that making it relevant in today's age is very important. Sometimes easy, sometimes not so easy, right, Lori? So with that, I will go ahead and open it up to Lori.
Thank you so much for having me today. I'm just really excited to share some of the strategies and the tools that we've used at the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library and Museum to grow our social media and reach and our engagement. So our communications team is small but mighty, if I do say so myself. Usually there is just two of us, but occasionally we do have an intern, so that makes three. My primary focus is social media, but I do also manage some of our broadcast partnerships. But like many small teams, we wear a lot of hats and we do collaborate cross functions daily. So about me, I was born and raised in Central Illinois. My background is in nonprofit marketing, communications, and event leadership. When I'm not working, there is a solid chance that I'm talking about gardening or sourdough. That's currently taking up the majority of my spare time. I've been with the ALPLM now for 2 years. And one of the things I really enjoy most is the chance to share such a rich and diverse range of stories. I'm not a historian. And honestly, I wasn't even really a history buff before coming to the ALPLM. But I've actually found that that perspective is a strength because it allows me to approach the content from an every person type of a point of view. It helps me translate the complex historical stories into clear and engaging, approachable topics that resonate with a broader audience. So with that, here's what I plan to go over today. I want to give you a snapshot of the successes that we've seen in growing our digital presence. I want to talk to you about how we ground our content in our mission, what we've learned from the types of content that our audience connects with most, give you a spotlight on our first influencer campaign, talk about the community collaborations that help amplify our message, talk about how we turn strategy into action with a small team, and give you a look inside my digital toolbox, especially the tools that I use to create reels. So one of the first things that I did after joining the ALPLM was establish our content pillars and build a structured content calendar. I know that there are a lot of ways to do this digitally, but I'll admit that this is an area where I'm pretty old school. So I still use an Excel spreadsheet. It's color-coded, and each color is attached to a formula that tracks the percentage of each pillar that's represented. So we can make sure that we can quickly look and see if we're balancing our pillars across all of our content. Planning ahead like that gives us time to be more creative and intentional. It allows us to collaborate with content experts that are at the museum or outside the museum and our project leads. And it also helps our reels and our posts feel more thoughtful and not rushed. I also introduced and continue to develop a short form video strategy. So we're now producing an average of 2 to 3 reels per week, in addition to 2 to 4 feed posts per day. So our reels include scripted voiceover videos, talking head camera pieces, B-roll or photo montages with captions and music, and the occasional trend-based content just to keep it fun. So this variety has really helped us maintain a consistent engagement and to perform better in the platform algorithms. Since implementing these strategies, we've seen steady and sustained growth across Instagram and Facebook. You can see on there that we've seen an increase in followers, reach, and engagement, and especially engagement on Facebook. So we've also started incorporating YouTube Shorts and LinkedIn into our broader digital approach. So I look forward to seeing how those platforms continue to grow for us. Finally, I did launch our first ever influencer marketing campaign, which brought in 744,000 organic views and growing, and it set new records for reach and engagement. So we've also started to build digital collaborations with local community partners and integrating those efforts into our overall strategy to increase visibility and relevance beyond our own channels and to really show us as a community partner. So our mission is to inspire civic engagement through the diverse lens of Illinois history and sharing with the world the life and legacy of Abraham Lincoln. And that mission is truly baked into everything we do in communications, especially on social media. Our mission, our core values, it guides what we post, how we say it, and who we're trying to reach. But, the ALPLM covers a lot of ground, from Abraham Lincoln and the Civil War to the full span of Illinois history, plus our collections, educational programs, and exhibitions. It would be really easy to lose focus. So that is where our content pillars come in. They're inspired by our mission and help us stay grounded. Every post that we create ties back to one of those pillars, ensuring that our content is purposeful, balanced, and mission aligned. I focus really on translating history into approachable content. So historians and history buffs, they love deep dives, biographies, scholarly texts, the full picture. But on social media, you don't get that kind of attention span. It's more of a highlight reel. For instance, if you look all the way to the left, you see Robert Lincoln. So Robert Lincoln, for example, most people know that he was Abraham Lincoln's only surviving son. But the general public might not know. He went to Harvard. He was once saved from certain death by John Wilkes Booth's brother. He married a senator's daughter. He lost his only son when his son was only 16 years old. He loved to golf and retired in Vermont. He attended the dedication of the Lincoln Memorial, and he was coincidentally present at President Garfield's assassination. So it's those lesser known moments that invite curiosity and really help people connect. Leveraging storytelling over promotion. So this year marks our 20th anniversary of the museum. To celebrate, we've launched a stunning new book that's published by Rizzoli. It's written by our executive director and our chief of acquisitions, and it's called Lincoln, the Life and Legacy That Defined a Nation in 100 Objects. Tomorrow, we actually, tomorrow night, have a VIP preview party for the new exhibit that is bringing that book to life. And yes, of course, we have done some straightforward promotional posts, but we're also really focusing on telling some object-driven stories to keep the content fresh and engaging. That second one that you see on here that says this was Lincoln's daily work bag. So this is a reel that we created about one of the objects that's in both the book and in the exhibit. We told the story of the bag, and we also help people connect with it. You think about your own daily work bag. So it's something that you can kind of think of, but this was Abraham Lincoln's, and it connects that exhibit and launch to this artifact and to the story of it. So this approach promotes the book and the exhibit, of course. It educates our audience, it showcases our collection, and it builds long-term engagement. Using humor, curiosity, and emotion. Yes, we are a world-class institution. Yes, we cover some pretty heavy topics: slavery, assassination, loss of children. That's heavy stuff, right? But that doesn't mean that our tone has to be solemn 100% of the time, especially if we want to connect with younger audiences. So this is where I really value our interns, and their feeds don't look like mine, which, let's be honest, is mostly gardening and sourdough at this point. So if I miss a trend that makes sense for us, they might not. So sometimes we do jump on trends. Like you can see Elizabeth Keckley here. She is doing the fit check trend that was popular last summer. And that was really a piece that people connected with and thought was funny. Other times we lean into a more emotional storytelling, like a reel about Mary Lincoln's sister coming to care for her during the grief of losing her son, Willie. She was so stricken that she could barely get herself out of bed and get dressed. And this tells the story of how a sister came during that grief and helped her out. Or we lead with curiosity, like the surprising story of Lincoln's best friend. Or did you know who Lincoln's cousins were? Just to give people stories that help them stop scrolling and dig in a little bit more. Something to keep in mind here is sing your greatest hits. So this kind of harkens back to my background in events and booking musicians who I know by their 50th concert have got to be tired of singing that #1 hit that they have, but that is what the public came there to see. So they still do it, for years and years and years. And I think that's important for us to remember, because just when we think that people have heard this story a million times, there's somebody out there who is hearing it for the first time. And I think this is one of the strengths that I have brought to the table as a non-historian, because I have not been a lifelong history buff. So oftentimes I am discovering stories for the first time that my colleagues feel like everybody already knows. But you know what? So is our audience. So that's why I keep telling our greatest hits, just in new ways. So whether it was why Lincoln grew a beard, or how the school children of Illinois donated their pennies to buy the Gettysburg Address, someone is hearing it for the first time. And I would guess in your own organizations, those same stories exist. And that's the beauty of social media. If it's a great story, it's worth telling again. So let's talk about what we learned from launching our first influencer marketing campaign and why it was meaningful and successful for us. So we partnered with a trusted family-oriented content creator with over 4 million followers, and we didn't just choose them at random. Their brand centers around the fact that they are a family of exceptionally tall people, unlike myself. So this made a really fun and natural tie-in to Abraham Lincoln, who is our nation's tallest president. And that quirky and memorable connection made the campaign feel clever and relevant and personal. But they're also based right here in Central Illinois. And I happen to have a personal connection with the family, which gave us a unique opportunity to collaborate closely with them, to learn from their expertise, and to really understand the influencer marketing process from the inside out, which is so valuable for the first time of us doing that type of marketing. So here's what we took away from this campaign. High engagement. The content sparked incredible organic engagement, not just likes, but comments, shares, saves. It outperformed our usual benchmarks. Record-setting results. These collaboration videos became the most viewed content on our Instagram, and across platforms had 744,000 organic views, and set a new standard for reach and visibility for us. Authenticity and trust. Because the influencer already had a loyal, engaged following, the content didn't feel like an ad. It felt like a genuine story. That authenticity helped build trust and enthusiasm among viewers. Long-term impact. This is probably my favorite thing. Unlike traditional advertising, this content continues to gain traction because new people are discovering it all the time. So people are still watching, engaging, and sharing weeks and months and probably even years after the initial post. Audience alignment. Their family-friendly, approachable brand was a perfect match for ours. It directly reached the kind of audience that we attract: families, learners, experience seekers, and made the museum feel even more accessible. So this wasn't just a campaign, it was a learning experience. It opened the door for a new type of storytelling, new audiences, a fresh approach to marketing a cultural institution in the digital age. And we definitely look forward to doing more of this in the future. Community collaborations. So let's talk about the role of digital community collaborations in our overall strategy. These partnerships are more than just feel-good initiatives. They amplify our voice. They connect us to local and regional audiences and help us extend our mission far beyond our museum walls and far beyond people who might actually walk into the museum. So we have intentionally built partnerships with organizations that share our values, our audiences, and our commitment to storytelling, education, culture, history. Some of the examples of collaborations that we have done, the Illinois State Fair, and particularly timely when the fair is going on. So we've shared stories about Abraham Lincoln's connection to the fair. We've pulled photos from our archive collections and matched them up with present day buildings at the state fairgrounds. And we've promoted our on-site engagement since we do have a table during the fair. Local businesses, civic and arts associations, these collaborations help us stay connected with community events and creative spaces and really help us be seen as part of the community. The Richard Hunt Trust, in support of our exhibit Freedom Inform Richard Hunt, also Rizzoli, New York, our publishing partner for the Lincoln 100 Objects book, and even the Smithsonian Institution, in support of a temporary exhibit that we had on loan from them called Solidarity Now, 1968 Poor People's Campaign. Through these partnerships, we've been able to leverage shared goals and resources to stretch our reach and creativity, strengthen our presence in the community, showing that we're not just a destination, but we're also a partner and a collaborator. And most importantly, build trust and visibility through these relationships that feel authentic and mutually beneficial. So whether it's a local art performance or a national exhibit launch, we are constantly looking for ways to connect through community partners and that add value to the conversation. So if you have an organization that you think connects well with us, I'd love to talk to you more about that. So strategy and action. How do we put our strategy into action with a small team? Well, it starts with planning. So prior to each month, we develop a detailed content calendar that helps map out our key campaigns, our museum priorities, upcoming events, and any milestones that we want to reach that month. And this gives us a high-level view so we can ensure our messaging is timely, balanced, mission-aligned. It actually is a calendar, so it says on this day we want to talk about this. And we do post 2 to 4 times a day, so that's quite a bit to cover and make sure that no balls were dropped and everything that needed to be promoted was. So it's very important to have this calendar. We also do post consistently across multiple platforms: Facebook, Instagram, X, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Primarily, we're doing shorts. This allows us to reach different segments of our audience in ways that fit each of those platforms' tones and behaviors. One platform that we are not on is TikTok, and that is simply because it is against the rules for a state organization. A big part of our approach is balancing evergreen storytelling, so those timeless content, those stories that always connect, with time-sensitive posts that are tied to an event coming up, an exhibition that's about to open, maybe some kind of an anniversary date, or a conversation that's happening in the world. We hold weekly check-ins to review analytics, evaluate what's working, what's not working, realign our messaging as needed, and keep our strategy adaptable and not static. At the heart of everything is mission alignment. Every piece of content we publish is intentional. It reflects the museum's voice. It supports institutional goals, and it's reviewed through a DEI lens to ensure balanced and inclusive storytelling. So let's take a look inside my digital toolbox. This is a mix of tools that help us create content that's polished, strategic, and consistent, even with a small team. But I will be honest, when I started, it was just me, my iPhone, and eventually I bought a $20 Bluetooth mic that I got online. So you do not need a full production setup to begin making content and video content. Sometimes actually that scrappy approach is effective and it shows you is really authentic. But over time, as our content evolved and our strategy grew, so did our toolkit. So this is where we're at today. We use Meta Business Suite and Hootsuite to schedule, publish, and monitor our performance across platforms. This is kind of a standard thing. I think probably most of us use something like this. These tools are essential for keeping things running smoothly, on time, especially when there's multiple campaigns going and overlapping. So for visuals, I use a mix of Adobe Creative Suite and Canva. Adobe is great for branded, complex work. I really love some of the AI tools in Photoshop, for instance. Sometimes you'll have an image that doesn't quite fit the aspect ratio that you need for the video, and their generative fill feature really helps expand things in the right way. But still, it looks like the original image, so it fits better on the video. Canva is more what I use for like a quick turnaround. So for instance, let's say our education department needs a quick and cute design for their next kids event. Canva has me covered there. I use Adobe Premiere Rush as my go-to for video editing. Although I do think they're discontinuing that. So I will check back with me. I'll see what we move to. But Adobe Premiere Rush, I think if you get it now, you can keep it. So if you do want to do it, I would get it now. Particularly, I use this for Reels and YouTube Shorts, but we don't do a lot of long form video. I have used it for that. We don't currently do a lot of long form video, but I do have some ideas, so we will see what the future holds. I use a program online called Descript that helps with audio cleanup, captioning, and AI voiceovers. It's very useful for accessibility and repurposing content without needing to reshoot. The AI voices are really amazing. There are several to choose from, and you can try different ones to get the tone that you want. For instance, there's one that kind of sounds like me. There's another that sounds like the guy from Unsolved Mysteries, and I think that's great for some of the more serious reels that we do. Plus, to be honest, it's a heck of a lot less cringy to use an AI voice than to be in my office with the door shut, trying to record over and over again to get the perfect voiceover. I also use ChatGPT to help polish captions, scripts, and messaging tone, especially when I want a caption to sound more playful or be more concise or more clear, or maybe I just am not having an inspired moment and I want it to sound more fun, and get a little help, from ChatGPT on that. For video capture, I use and I'm going to give you the exact name here because if you want one, this is what you'll want to look up. DJI Osmo Pocket 3 Creator Combo Camera. So this has a built-in stabilizer because if you're like me, sometimes when you take video with your phone and you're trying to move, it can get a little bit shaky. And it also has a Bluetooth microphone. So it is really great for capturing smooth footage on the go. For larger scale projects now, like for instance, this Lincoln 100 Objects book launch and exhibit, we now do partner with our in-house tech team, and we'll set up a video shoot. We'll use my camera, but they'll bring some supporting cameras so we have some different views, which is nice to kind of cut to a different angle. They'll bring some additional lighting in and additional equipment, and it really elevates the production value, keeps it all in-house still. But you do not need all of that, and that is definitely not where we started. So in closing, I will say the tools we use will continue to evolve. The algorithms will change, platforms will rise and platforms will fall, but what will stay the same and what will always matter the most is authentic storytelling that's rooted in your mission. So as a communicator, one of the greatest privileges in my role is helping people connect, not just with the content, but with the meaning behind the content. So whether it's a powerful artifact, a surprising story, or a lighthearted reel that just makes somebody smile that day, I'm always working to make history feel relevant, engaging, and accessible. So at ALPLM, our mission drives every post, every partnership, and every experiment that we try. And I hope that today's presentation gave you a few ideas or insights that you can apply in your own organization or communities. If you would like to connect or ask questions or collaborate, I'd love to keep the conversation going. Again, thanks so much for everything that you do, telling stories out in the world and keeping that communication going. Please, if you want to connect, ask questions or anything like that, just feel free.
I would say if everybody just wants to hop in, if you want to do something on chat, that's fine. But if somebody has a question, go ahead and hop right in. Lori, as far as kind of coming up with the creative ideas, do you do that together as a team, or how do some of your more creative things come to be?
So I go online and I looked at there's a couple different things. Let me start there. So one thing is we have a calendar that is all of these Lincoln related dates or Illinois history related dates. And we also have a, a resource that I go that's like, today is National Daughter Day, or today is a holiday that makes sense for something that we're doing. So we use those types of calendars as jumping off points. So for instance, there's a day coming up that's like National Dog Day. Well, let's talk about Lincoln's dog. So during the meeting, when we're kind of a month out and we're looking at the next month's content calendar and we see what's coming up, we can kind of talk through. And also, there's a date coming up. That's the day the Gettysburg Address was signed. Okay, well, that's every year. Every year we talk about the Gettysburg Address. How do we want to talk about it new this year? And what creative concepts can we come up with?
Awesome. And you talked about the content calendar. How far in advance are you working on that?
At least 1 month in advance.
We have a couple questions in chat. Can you talk about the decision to disable comments on Facebook and how that differs from IG, from Instagram, or other social platforms?
So Facebook, that was a difficult decision, because you want to keep dialogue going. But the problem that we were running into with Facebook particularly, and not the other platforms, was the trolls were taking over the comments. So we found that people go to your social media first before they often go to your business. So a lot of our visitors would go to our social media before coming. And so they see our content, they get excited about coming, and they look in the comments and they see all this negativity, all these people who really are making racial slurs, who are, saying that the Civil War never should have happened or slavery should still exist. All of these types of things that don't belong on our page. As a government entity, we are not able to just delete or hide the comments that we don't want to have on there because of freedom of speech. So the decision came actually after talking with Central Management Services in the governor's office to disable comments on our Facebook. And it differs from Instagram and our other platforms because we didn't have that same type of thing happening there.
Gotcha. Interesting. Christy said, I love your suggestion to use AI to help change the tone of your writing, captions, etc. This can be so helpful. I'm just reading that for those who may not be on chat. And then Melissa says, can you post the camera app in the chat?
It's the camera app. You mean the name?
Is that what you need? Melissa, is the name of it? Just go ahead and give her the name, I
Yep.
guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I couldn't write it down fast enough.
Oh yeah, let me get in here and I'll cut and paste it in there.
We'll also, with members, share the PowerPoint if Lori's good with that, as well as have this video up for members as well. So afterwards, we'll get that out fairly soon. So if you did miss something, we should be able to get it for you. Adriana said you mentioned some great examples in your presentation. Can you maybe tell us about a post reel or et cetera that surprised you with how successful it was?
Yes, that Robert Lincoln one did, because I also thought, I mean, everybody knows Robert Lincoln, and to be honest, it was kind of something that I decided to do more last minute than we typically do. So I didn't feel like it was rushed or thrown together. It still came out good, but it was more of a, we haven't done anything on Robert Lincoln, so let's just kind of do like a biography. It wasn't like we took a particular angle and said, hey, did you know this exciting and cool fact about Robert Lincoln? It was more of just an overview of his life. But people did really connect with it, and that one did really surprise me.
How much editing are you doing on video when you go out to do something with video? Are you doing a lot of editing? Are you doing it just like, this is exactly what I want, and you're posting it as is?
Oh, well, I guess that depends on how good you are at taking video, which I take way too much video. So I probably end up doing more editing that someone who maybe has a better eye for it would do. But I feel like I want to capture everything and then I can just edit down to exactly what we need. So it just depends on, some things are very straightforward. But sometimes whenever I have like a historian talking, they're getting really deep into the weeds. And so we do have to, even though it's all great content, it goes too long. And that's one of the ways I think in the future we could use YouTube more. is to share more of what they're saying, because I do feel bad sometimes clipping out so much of this really good information, but it just won't go well on social media. People will stop listening. So what we do sometimes is we'll break it into parts, but I think if in the future we could do a longer form video and then send people from the reel to that video.
Does anybody else have a question? I can keep asking questions, but I think one thing a lot of people struggle with, especially when it comes to social media or even just using content that you get like at a public event, things like that, is the permissions part of it. So how do you guys handle, making sure people that are in your social media pictures or video or whatever that are covered?
So we use a lot of our own images, or images from our collections. But do you mean like people who are at the museum as visitors or something like that? Because that is
Right,
challenging.
yeah.
We go and ask them, particularly if it's children. So a lot of times we will kind of avoid, if we're not able to ask for the permission, we will just avoid getting a face shot or something. We'll just make sure we get people from behind, or to avoid it altogether. And there have been several times where I've asked a parent, is it okay if we have your child captured on video? And they've said no. That's perfectly fine. It's their choice. And I wouldn't want to do anything that would make them feel uncomfortable. So we just find a different angle.
Does anybody else have any other way that they handle that that's on the call?
I mean, you can do blanket statements where it's like everybody who walks into the museum this day is giving their permission to be on video. But I don't feel like that's a very personal approach. And as a parent myself, I would want to have the opportunity to say yes or no. So I do make sure to ask.
Anyone else have questions? All right. Well, Lori, I want to say thank you very much. It was very informative and we appreciate you sharing. In addition, just again, remember to register for our workshop in October, and that we have a couple other programs coming up on November 13th with Storyteller Studios on Storytelling Guide for Marketers. And then in January, the Route 66 with Casey Claypool. And if you haven't joined, now you know good reason why for members and all of that. Please join at midilcommunications.org. And thank you, everyone, taking your lunch to join us today.